Hello everyone, and thank you for watching this video on annual progress reports. My name is Kathleen McCarron and I'm a project officer at the Interreg Seas Joint Secretariat. So this video will guide you into the content of the annual progress report and will try to give you some tips on the different sections of this report. So if you're watching this video, you are probably part of an approved project and you're currently in the phase of delivering and reporting of your project. So the annual progress report is a document that will allow you to explain the activities that have been implemented by your project, but also allows us to see that it is in line with what was indicated in your application form at the start of your project. It is also useful information for us to report towards the European Commission on how the funding is used. If you want more information, you can also find some details on fact sheet 6 of our program manual. So how to prepare for your annual progress report. So first you need to know that everything will be done online through our EEP, the Electronic Exchange Platform. There is a specific module that is available as from the 1st of November, and your annual progress report must be submitted by the 31st of January each year. If you're planning on submitting a financial claim in January, make sure that you actually submit this financial claim before you submit your annual progress report. And try to also start working on your annual progress report quite in advance. It's important that you gather information, documents from the entire partnership. So it will require some work prior to the drafting of your annual progress report. So the lead partner will be in charge of entering the information in the EEP, but the entire partnership also has the viewing rights on the EEP. So now we'll go through the different sections of the annual progress report, as we mentioned. So we'll start with the one on main achievement, which is the first one you will be asked to fill in. So this is the only section when you will be asked to cover the activities of your project since the start, since the approval. So we want to have an exhaustive view of the activities that have been implemented. But it's really important that you summarize and you really keep the information that is very relevant for your project, and that you also draft this section in a way that is accessible for the general public. We're going to use this information on our website in the different web pages of the approved project. So it's important that this information is accessible to someone who's not familiar with your project, who's not familiar with the theme of your project. So try to imagine how you would explain what you've been doing to one of your friends or a relative. The second section, which is quite important in your annual progress report, is the one on specific results. When your project was approved, it was built around the intervention logic of your project. If we go quickly back on the intervention logic, you first have your project's main objective that is in line with the program specific objective. Your main objective is then divided into a project specific objective, and under each of them you can have one or more outputs. Each of these outputs will lead to specific results, and these specific results will then feed in your project main result, which will contribute to the results of the program as a whole. So this is a section where we want you to report on the specific results that have been achieved by the different outputs produced by your project. So when you started working on your project, you might have come across a checklist for measurable results that was drafted by the program. This is a checklist that helps you draft specific results in a way that you can really see that they're in line with your proposed output, and to make sure that it's also relevant for the program and that it's drafted in a way that is comprehensive. So if needed, you can go back to the checklist, which is available on the website, to kind of go back into the process of drafting the intervention logic. So your specific results must be what we call SMART. So the idea is that they're specific, so tailored to your project, measurable, that you can actually show an increase of something, a change in your results. Achievable, meaning that by the end of your project, they must be achieved. Relevant, meaning in line with the program expected results, and also time-bound. So in the annual progress report, what does it look like? Basically, you will have each of your outputs indicated, and next to them, the specific result that was first mentioned in your application form. Just keep in mind that everything that has been written in your application form, you're basically accountable for it. So this should be delivered by the end of your project. So you will have the specific results indicated for each of your outputs, and below a table where you can add from 1 to 5 specific results. So you have basically 4 boxes, and the 2 first one are a drop-down list, and the two last ones are free text. We'll go into detail into these boxes. So the first one, you need to choose a specific result category and type. So as I said, you can add different results, and you need to associate these specific results to a category and a type that have been identified by the program. And this will help you to aggregate all the data from all our different projects. So you have 5 different categories, and for each category, specific types. So you have a matrix that is available on our website, and you will see that for different specific objective, you do not have all types available. So you need to, depending on the theme of your project, you will have access to specific categories and types. If we focus on the first one, the networking, you can see that the category is networking. We then have 3 different types, and for each specific objective, it's indicated whether or not this type is available. Should you want to report on a specific result that do not really fit in any of the pre-selected categories or type, that's not a problem. You can always select others and create your own specific results. So that was for the first 2 boxes. Then we come to the third one, which is the modality of measurement. So in this section, you need to explain how you're going to measure the specific result. So what is going to be your source of data? What is the methodology that has been drafted for this specific result? Who's going to be in charge of monitoring this data? How many times is it going to occur, etc. So this is all the type of information that you need to indicate in this section. We ask that for all output, at least one methodology is provided. And so as from the first annual progress report, it's really important that projects start thinking about how they're going to measure the different results as from the start of their project. If you arrive at the end of your project implementation and you think about a type of result that you want to put forward, but you do not have thought about how you are going to measure it, and you do not have put in place an appropriate methodology and an appropriate monitoring system, then you will not be able to actually measure this result. So it's something that you need to start thinking about from the start of your project with the entire partnership. It's also important that all partners agree on the same methodology, because if different methodologies are applied across the partnership, then you will not be able to aggregate the data at project level. It's in this section also that we will be able to see that your results are actually measurable, achievable, and time-bound, which are from the SMART methodology that we mentioned earlier on. Then we come to the last box on specific results, which is the description of the measured specific result. In this box, you can actually describe the specific result that has been achieved by your output until now, meaning that it is possible that your output is not finalized, but you have already been able to start collecting data. Or it can be that your output has been delivered, but the results will increase over time during your project. So this box can be amended during project implementation. And if your project has already delivered some outputs, then this box must be filled in any case. And it's in this section that we can see that your results are actually specific to your output and also relevant for the program, as we mentioned earlier on. So now we're going to come to the next section, which is also a very important section, which is the one on target groups. So in your annual progress report, you will be asked to report on the number of stakeholders that you have been able to reach during your project implementation. So in your annual progress report, you will also find the data from previous annual progress report, and you will be asked to show that it has increased. You then have different sections to fill in the target group, meaning what's the overall types of stakeholders that have been reached. Again, you should refer to the information provided in your application form because you did mention different types of stakeholders that you were aiming to involve or to communicate to. So you should go back to your application form. And then you will also be asked to report on how you actually involved these target groups. So depending on your target value, the involvement will differ. If you're aiming to reach 10 organizations, it's not the same type of involvement than if you're aiming to reach 5,000 individuals, where the involvement will be softer. So in this section, you will explain how you actually involved and to which extent you involved your different target groups. And finally, you have a last box, which is source of verification. You have to be prepared to provide evidence for the figures that you're providing in your annual progress report. So there are different types of evidence that you can provide. It can be a monitoring tool, an attendance list, or something like this. If needed, the program can provide you with an Excel document that you could use, but some projects have also developed their own tools, and you can find some powerful systems online if you want to. So now we're coming to the section on work packages. So for each work package, you will be asked to report on the progress of your project. So as we mentioned before, this is really on the year before the submission of your annual progress report. In this section, you need to explain how all the partners did interact together, and if you have been facing any issues or any delays, then it should be clearly mentioned. It is possible that different things occur during your project implementation. You cannot plan everything in your application form. However, it must always be explained and justified why you had to change or why you had to do different things in your annual progress report. At activity level, you will be asked to choose from a drop-down list the status of your activity. So it can be not started, completed, proceeding according to plan, behind schedule, or ahead of schedule. At deliverable level, you also have a drop-down list to fill it in, but you also have to provide a short explanation on the status of your deliverable. In this section as well, be expected to provide evidence, in particular if you have actually delivered and achieved your deliverables. Now we're coming to the section on the project finance report. So in this section, we ask you to provide us with a state of play on the spending level, at project level, but also at partner level. Again, it's possible that there have been some issues or deviations in the spending or in the activities, and this must be clearly explained should it be the case. If a partner is falling behind in terms of spending, you need to explain us why. The last section of the annual progress report is the one on the performance review. So the performance of your project will be based on the performance on the content side, taking into account your output achievement, and on the financial side with your financial spending. So to do that, you will be asked to prove that you have achieved the outputs that were planned, and will also take into account the latest financial data available, which is why at the start I stressed down the fact that you really should submit your financial claim before you submit your annual progress report, so that all the data is actually incorporated into this section. So here it's about making the reconciliation between what you have achieved in terms of content and what you have achieved in terms of financial spending. So here you should be providing a little summary and to demonstrate that yes, there is a link, and your financial spending is actually in line with what has been delivered by the project. So, as we said, your annual progress report must be submitted by the 31st of January. It will then be analyzed by your lead and review officer at the Joint Secretariat. They might be asking you some questions on the content of your report. So that's why the better the quality of your annual progress report is, the quicker the validation will be, because the officers will have less questions. So try to make the effort to really prepare in detail with the other partners and make sure that any deviation or delays are actually justified in your annual progress report. And then when your annual progress is validated, you will receive a notification along with the notification on your performance review. So just some golden tips to finish this video. Never forget that you are actually in a cross-border project, so try to avoid doing a list of the activities implemented by each partner. Try to present it as a cross-border project, as something that all organizations have been doing together. Really prepare in advance the section on the specific results and the target group. As we said, it's important that you agree on a methodology and on a monitoring tool as from the start of your project, so that you'll use the same tools and it's easy to report at project level. Again, always explain any delays or deviation that are happening in your project. Ensure that they are the overall coherence of your annual progress report between your activities, your deliverables, your outputs. Everything has to be coherent. And finally, if needed, provide clear evidence, and also try to present it in a way that is easy to understand from someone who's not familiar. So if you want to send a report that is linked to a deliverable, try to put the name or the code of the deliverable in the name of the file or something like this, so that it's easy to understand for someone who is not familiar with what you're doing. Some tools that could be useful, you can find on our website the checklist on measurable results that we mentioned at the start. You can also find the matrix with all the specific results categories and types. We also did last year a live Q&A with lead partners, and we drafted a document to summarize the question and answer that were raised during this webinar. There is also some additional guidance on the EEP directly. So when you will be filling in your annual progress report, you have some little bubbles that will give you more details on how to fill in your annual progress report. Don't hesitate to use these. Finally, we'd be happy to receive any question you have, so don't hesitate to contact either your lead and review officer. We're also available at the email address that is indicated on the screen and through our different social networks. So thank you very much for watching. Don't hesitate again if you have any feedback or content, we'd be happy to receive them. Thank you.